how to make that money. If it's one thing you need to know.
RSP versus RRSP, what's the difference? We all know saving for retirement is a great idea, maybe even essential, depending on your situation. But conversations about RSPs and RRSPs often use the two terms interchangeably. Is there a difference between them? And what about TFSAs, RRIFs, and RPPs, should you be considering them too? Since the first step of every journey is knowing where to start, let's go over RSP versus RRSP versus every other option, plus the contribution, withdrawal, and taxation laws for each. The difference between RSP and RRSP. The first step to identifying the difference between these two terms is knowing what the acronyms stand for. RSP, Retirement Savings Plan. RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan. With these meanings in mind, it can be easier to see that an RSP can refer to a number of different account types that have retirement savings as their main goal. RRSP is an example of one of those types, but is far from the only one. In short, all RRSPs are an RSP, but not all RSPs are an RRSP. So what are these other RSP types then? Registered Retirement Savings Plan (RRSP). An RRSP is probably the most well-known of all RSPs, which is probably why they often get confused with each other, and how similar their names are. RRSPs have some great tax advantages for you, which makes them pretty attractive, especially if you're in a higher tax bracket. RRSP tax benefits. First, your RRSP contributions are also tax deductions, letting you reduce how much income tax you have to pay for every year you contribute. Every year, you'll get a contribution receipt from the financial institution you have your RRSP set up with, and you'll have to claim that amount on your tax return. Second, anything you make on your savings and investments in an RRSP is tax sheltered, meaning you won't pay taxes on them until they're withdrawn. RRSP contribution limits. There are of course limits to how much you can contribute each year, but the good news is they carry over if you don't use them up. Contribution limits are based on two possible values. The one that applies for you is whichever is less. 18% of your total pre-tax income, or the CRA limit, $27,230 for 2020. In other words, unless your income is over $151,277, your contribution room is 18% of what you make. The easiest place to find these limits is your last year's tax return. Also note these amounts get reduced if you have a pension plan through your employer, as a way to level the playing field. But be wary of overcontributing, as any contributions you make over this limit will be met with a 1% fee per month until they're withdrawn. Check out Wealthsimple's RRSP and get $10,000 managed free for a year. Withdrawing from your RRSP. All of the above sounds pretty good, but where the cons come in is on withdrawal. First of all, since your RRSP is meant to be used to save up for retirement, you'll be hit with withholding taxes if you withdraw early. This is why some people aren't as keen to contribute, especially earlier in life. Retirement seems so far away, but potentially looming financial disasters don't. There are two exceptions to the rule, which we cover in more detail in this article. Home Buyer's Plan, for the purchase of your first home. Lifelong Learning Plan, for continued education. But once you hit retirement, your withdrawals must be declared as part of your income, which means you might end up paying more in income taxes for those years. It's one of those feels good now but bad later situations. One more thing to keep in mind, your RRSP has to be converted to an RRIF once you turn 71, and you'll be forced to make withdrawals. Tax-free savings account (TFSA). TFSAs are another pretty popular savings option introduced to Canadians in 2009. Unlike RRSPs, barring its two exceptions and the option of shouldering tax consequences, you're not limited to retirement with this account. You have some tax benefits and contribution limits with TFSAs too, so let's look them over. TFSA tax benefits and withdrawals. Contributions made to your TFSA are after-tax dollars, so they aren't deductible on your tax return. But that being said, everything earned within your TFSA is tax-sheltered, so you don't have to pay taxes on any earnings you make, and withdrawals don't have to be declared on your income tax. It's essentially the opposite problem of RRSPs. You pay taxes now so you don't have to pay them later. TFSA contribution limits. Contribution limits are set by the CRA every year and also carry over if you don't use the full amount. Any withdrawals you make will also be added back to your limit for the next year. For 2020, the CRA's contribution limit is $6,000. Like the RRSP, you'll also be charged an overcontribution fee, so it's a good idea to know your limit and make sure you stay within it. Your CRA online account can tell you how much room you have to contribute this year. Registered Pension Plan (RPP). If your workplace makes retirement contributions on your behalf, it's likely in an RPP. These are sometimes called employer-sponsored or corporate pensions, and are either completely or partially contributed to by your employer. There are two main types, which we'll look at briefly here. Defined Benefit (DB). The first type is Defined Benefit, which is more of a promise from your employer that they'll pay you a set monthly wage during your retirement. How much you'll get paid, and if you're eligible at all, is based on a number of factors that will likely be decided by your employer. These are things like your age, years of service, and income level. You may be required to make some contributions as well, but DB plans are likely contributed to entirely by your employer on your behalf. Defined Contribution (DC). The second type of RPP is more common and acts closer to an RRSP. Your employer, and likely you as well, makes contributions, and how much you get in retirement depends on how well those investments do and how much you saved up. This type will more likely have a matching portion where any contribution you make will be matched by your employer. RPP contributions and withdrawals. One important thing to keep in mind is that any contributions you make to an RPP will cut into your RRSP contribution limits. This is called pension adjustments. Important portions of your RPP, like when you can start seeing the withdrawals, or what happens if you leave the job early, may depend on your employer or the province you're in. This can vary, so it may be best to talk to your contact at work for the most accurate information. Non-registered accounts. Finally, non-registered accounts don't offer any sort of tax sheltering, but are great options for when you max out contribution rooms to your RRSP and TFSA. That's because they have no limits or rules when it comes to your contributions, plus you can withdraw whenever you want. So which RSP is best for you? Well, all of the above, if possible. This is because of the contribution limits. The more money you have saved up for retirement, the better, so aiming to max out your limits is the best course of action, if your finances allow it. Starting with your RRSP to take advantage of the tax deductions is a good place to start. Then move to your TFSA once you've maxed it out, then non-registered options once both are finished for the year. And also try not to turn down free money from RPPs too. Which accounts do you have? Are you thinking of opening more soon? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button, and if you have something to say, please leave a comment. See you in the next video.